So our next speaker is going to be Scott Willis. He is CEO of Zinwave. And Zinwave is a company that is actually providing the connectivity that enables a lot of the things that we've been hearing about all day long. Zinwave has an indoor cellular solution that actually supports all 4 of the mobile operators, so that's a little bit unique in the marketplace. And the company is well positioned as enterprises begin to take responsibility for their own connectivity and realize that the carriers are not always going to step up and provide an indoor connectivity system. So with that, I'd like to welcome Scott Willis, CEO of Zinwave. All right, I apologize. Y'all can hear me now? Okay. All right. So indoor connectivity is crucial to a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and I think that a lot of companies are realizing that the same connectivity that's going to enable basic cellular communications today is going to enable Internet of Things connectivity tomorrow. So that's what we're going to be talking about here with Scott Willis. He is CEO of Zinwave, and Zinwave has an indoor DAS solution that supports all 4 of the mobile operators. So that's a little bit unique in the marketplace. So Scott, I'd like to start off with just a little bit of a history of your company and how you sort of identified this need in the marketplace, and then we're going to hear about some of the learnings that you've gathered from companies that have been talking to you about their indoor connectivity needs.
Okay, great. So, what we bring into the market, at least conceptually, is a platform, in terms of in-building connectivity, has been around for a while, right? If you look backwards, it's been very focused around large venues, convention centers, airports, typical, dense environments where lots of people come, has been the enabler. But clearly, when you look at the opportunity with IoT, and you really think about how do you unleash that opportunity, and how do you realize ultimately what IoT is going to offer not only businesses but ultimately efficiencies and how our economies are going to grow. The connectivity layer is an important layer. It's a critical layer, right? I mean, at Zinwave, we tend to look at it simply, right? I tend to break things down very simply, right? You've got a data layer. That's the device layer. That's everything that we're trying to connect. So those are all the different devices. Those are all the different applications that you're talking about. The next layer is the connectivity player. That's where we play. That's what we're working on. That's what we're attempting to work at the enterprise level to enable, right? And then the third layer is really the data analysis, right? You collect that data. What do you do with that data? You got to analyze it. You got to look at it, and you got to optimize it. And then really the fourth layer is the call to action. So that's the layer where you really monetize what you're trying to accomplish through the bottom 3 layers. And so, when you take a look at IoT from Zinwave's perspective, we're very focused on enabling that connectivity layer and create an environment where we can optimally provide a solution to unleash ultimately what we believe IoT can become.
All right, fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about the business model. I think that a lot of people realize that the carriers are not paying for connectivity for companies anymore, but do companies realize this? What are companies telling you when you talk to them about their indoor connectivity needs?
Yeah, so this is a learning experience for all of us. So we're fairly I think we're very early and we're new into this as an industry. Companies like Zinwave, if you look backwards, to your point, we're very reliant on the operators. We marketed ourselves through the operators, and the operators are the ones that actually capitalize these investments. When you really take a look at over the last few years, that model has shifted. The market has begun to pivot, and when you think about IoT conceptually, right, the drivers for that are ubiquitous connectivity, right? It's got to be efficient. It's got to be wide, broad, and it's got to support millions, hundreds of millions of connected devices. The enabler of that in itself implies multi-carrier, right? Multi-environment, right? And when the operators begin to look at the economics associated with trying to build out all of that in-building demand that's out there, it's not sustainable. It doesn't support their business cases and their economics. So that pivot has now shifted over into the enterprise, and the enterprise is in a learning stage, right? This is going to be a journey that we're on as we go through this process. I think we're over the hump in terms of the enterprise beginning to realize, okay, the carriers are serious. They're not going to capitalize this investment. They're not going to come into my billing and pay for this. Now I've got to begin to say, okay, how do I pay for this myself? But that's only half the problem, right? Because very much like what we were talking about earlier, not only once you get to the recognition stage of saying, okay, I've got to do something, I've got to take ownership of this myself, then when you get into the level of complexity associated with making that decision, right? What's the right technology choice? What is the right investment for my business? What are the applications that I need to support? What's the right technology layer to support those applications? How do I create a solution that not only covers what my needs and demands for my business today are, but if I look 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road, will the same decision that I make today be viable 5 years down the road? So when you look at that, that's the real challenge in our industry and at the real enterprise or building owner level when we begin to talk about, okay, how do we really begin to enable IoT by creating that in-building connectivity layer?